Welcome back. Today, we are jumping straight into an absolutely wild piece of ancient text from the Dutta Parva. It is basically a roller coaster that starts at the very top of the world and then just drops you straight down into the terrifying depths of an impending apocalypse. We're looking at a story packed with leadership struggles, incredible tension, and the absolute crushing weight of destiny. It really forces us to ask some profound questions about human agency, and honestly, seeing how this ancient crisis unfolds is just endlessly fascinating. So imagine this. You find out that the world as you know it, your entire civilization, is going to completely collapse in exactly 13 years. And the kicker? You are destined to be the root cause of it all. What on earth do you do? This isn't just some fun, hypothetical thought experiment for a dinner party. This is the intense, deeply relatable psychological thriller that our main guy, King Yudhishthira, gets completely trapped in. In a matter of minutes, he goes from being the most powerful man on the planet to a guy carrying the weight of total destruction on his shoulders. Section 1. The Price of Power. Okay, so our text kicks off right after the completion of the Rajasuya. If you're not familiar, think of the Rajasuya as the ultimate imperial flex. It's a massive, grueling sacrifice that basically says, I am the undisputed emperor of the world. Yudhishthira has just pulled it off. He's got imperial sway over the earth, his family is prospering, and he is sitting at the absolute peak of the mountain. Now, the text also constantly brings up the Kshatriyas. These are the warriors, the kings, the rulers of the earth. You're going to want to keep them in mind because this massive elite class that Yudhishthira now leads is exactly who fate is about to put directly in the crosshairs. But here's the thing. Despite winning at life, King Yudhishthira is freaking out. He rolls out this costly, gold-inlaid carpet for his grandfather, the legendary sage Vyasa, offers him water and asks him this burning question. The king is tormented by what the text calls a doubt difficult of being dispelled. You see, earlier, another sage had warned him that this massive Rajasuya sacrifice would trigger all sorts of celestial, atmospherical, and terrestrial portents, basically terrible omens. So Yudhishthira is desperate for reassurance. He's begging his grandfather, hey, my rival is dead now. Are these terrifying omens finally over? Can I just rest? Which brings us to Section 2, a prophecy of destruction. 13. That's the exact number of years Vyasa drops on him. He tells the king, nope, the bad omens aren't over. In fact, they are going to keep brewing and bearing mighty consequences for exactly 13 years. And the grand finale of this 13-year ticking clock? The complete and total destruction of all the Kshatriyas. That entire warrior class we just talked about, wiped out. Just imagine the shock of that. You've just thrown the biggest celebration of your entire life, cementing your legacy, and your own grandfather looks at you and says, yeah, in 13 years, everyone in your class is going to be annihilated. And the tragic irony here is just absolutely brutal. Vyasa lays it out. Yudhishthira himself is going to be the catalyst. He will be the sole cause. But the actual blame, the true sins that drive this war, those belong entirely to his cousin Duryodhana. And to make it even worse, the sheer violence that will actually carry out this destruction will come from Yudhishthira's own brothers, Bhima and Arjuna. Talk about being trapped. He is literally the spark for a world-ending event fueled by someone else's sins and executed by his own family. Section 3. The Vision of Time. Vyasa then prepares Yudhishthira for a literal nightmare. He tells him that that very night he's going to dream of the god Shiva. And this isn't some serene, heavenly vision. We're talking blue-throated, wrapped in a tiger skin, holding a massive trident and the fearsome Pinaka bow. Oh, and he'll be drinking directly from a human skull. Most chillingly, though, Shiva will be seated on his bull, just staring unceasingly towards the south, which is the direction of the realm of the dead. It is this incredibly visceral, inescapable, psychological horror that Yudhishthira is forced to just sit there and anticipate. And after dropping that horrifying skull-drinking visual, Vyasa just casually drops the central theme of this whole explainer. He tells the king, don't grieve over this dream, because none can rise superior to the influence of time. And with that, he basically says, rule the earth, be patient, good luck, and literally just leaves for the mountains. That right there is the core of our text, the absolute, unbending supremacy of fate. Time is such an unstoppable force that even the newly crowned emperor of the world is completely helpless against it. Section 4. Despair and the Vow. So, as you might guess, Yudhishthira is crushed. He's dealing with intense anxiety and grief, spiraling over the sage's words, knowing they have to come true. And he keeps asking himself this one fundamental question. Can we ward off fate by exertion alone? Like, can human effort actually stop destiny? Well, his first thought is just deep suicidal despair. He tells his brothers that if he's ordained to cause all this destruction, his firm resolution is that he should just die. Why even live if time has already intended this doom? Honestly, it's a completely understandable reaction to feeling absolutely hopeless. But right before Yudhishthira gives up entirely, his brother Arjuna steps in. The text has Arjuna telling him, "Yield not thyself to this terrible depression that is destructive of reason." I love that phrasing. It's such a vital intervention. Arjuna pulls his brother back from the literal brink, urging the great king to muster his strength and actually do something beneficial. It hits Yudhishthira that he can't just die. He has to try, somehow, to outsmart this prophecy. So Yudhishthira pivots and invents a radical plan. Thinking back to what Vyasa said, he takes a drastic vow for the next 13 years. Step 1, he promises to never speak a harsh word to his brothers or any king on earth. Step 2, he's going to literally live under the command of his relatives. Step 3, he'll treat his own kids and everyone else's kids exactly the same. And step 4, the big one, he will avoid all disagreement. His logic here is pretty straightforward. Disagreement causes war, right? So by keeping war at a distance and becoming the ultimate people pleaser, he hopes to avoid the blame for the apocalypse. He decides to fight fate with extreme, uncompromising pacifism. Which leads us right into Section 5, the lingering threat. Let's pause and look at the glaring, tragic flaw in the king's logic here. Yudhishthira thinks he can keep war away just by being agreeable. If he just smiles and nods, war can't happen, right? But remember what Vyasa actually said. Vyasa's reality is that this destruction isn't caused by Yudhishthira being disagreeable. It's driven by the sins of Duryodhana and the unstoppable influence of time. Yudhishthira's vow completely glosses over the fact that he isn't the one committing the sins. His pacifism might stop him from throwing the first punch, but it does absolutely zero to stop Duryodhana from committing the sins that will eventually force the rest of the family to fight back. But nobody seems to realize this at the time. Instead, this huge, false sense of security washes over the court. The text tells us that his brothers, who are always just trying to make him happy anyway, blindly approve of this vow. Yudhishthira does all the proper ceremonies, the guest monarchs pack up and go home, auspicious rites are performed, and the king peacefully heads back into his palace. Everything seems perfectly fine on the surface. Yudhishthira honestly believes he's just neutralized the whole 13-year threat. And then, the source text hits us with this incredibly chilling cliffhanger. Everyone else goes home. The king is locked into his "I will never disagree with anyone" vow. But read this line. "And, O ruler of men, King Duryodhana and Sakuni continued to dwell in that delightful assembly house." The very architects of the prophesied destruction are left sitting right there in the king's own home, making themselves totally comfortable. Which brings us to the big, provocative question of this explainer. Does extreme conflict avoidance and surrendering your own agency actually stop a war? Or, by refusing to ever say no or push back, did King Yudhishthira just hand the prophesied villains unrestricted access to his home and 13 full years to plan their destruction completely undisturbed? It's a really profound look at the limits of pacifism when you're staring down inevitable fate and malicious intent. Thank you so much for exploring this incredible text with me today, and I hope it sparks some fascinating thoughts about destiny and choices in your own life.